Good morning, everyone. This is Ben Weisner, the host for this morning's presentation. Thank you for joining us for our webinar, Funemics, Phonemic Awareness in 3D, presented by Andrea Peterson. Andrea began her career as an early childhood special education teacher in northern Minnesota, but transitioned into parenting and creating a successful graphic design business. She's used her background in teaching and design to create the Funemics program for phonemic awareness to help her own son work through his speech difficulties. Since Read Naturally published Funemics, Andrea has trained teachers and trainers in the program and has enjoyed seeing children across the nation learn essential pre-reading skills using her fun and whimsical lessons. Andrea's presentation will include time for Q&A, so please do ask your questions using the question tool in your meeting panel. Given our time constraints today, Andrea will not be able to respond to all of your questions, but we will make an effort to get back to as many of you as possible in the coming days with email responses to those we were not able to address today. You should have all received a link to the handout for today's meeting. The handout is also available from the meeting panel if you'd like to download and print it out now. Many of you have also asked about a recording of this webinar. We will be recording the presentation and sending out follow-up emails with links to the recording in about 24 hours. So look for that in your inbox. Feel free to share that recording with anyone at your school or district who you think would benefit from this very valuable information. Also, at the end of our session, you'll be asked to provide us with feedback about today's webinar via a very short survey. If you could, please respond to the survey so we can continue to improve the webinar experience for all of you in the future. And finally, if you are having technical difficulties, please contact GoToWebinar support. Their phone number is listed at the bottom of the meeting panel. And now, without further delay, I'm going to pass the microphone off to Andrea Peterson, your presenter for today's Read Naturally webinar.
Thanks, Ben. Welcome to the Funemics webinar. As Ben said, I'm Andrea, the author of Funemics, and today we're going to talk about why we need to teach the essential skills of phonemic awareness and how the Funemics program is set up to teach those skills. To start with, I'd like to quote Marilyn Adams. She's a leading expert in phonemic awareness and states, "Research indicates that without direct instructional support, phonemic awareness eludes roughly 25% of middle-class first graders, and substantially more of those who come from less literacy-rich backgrounds. Furthermore, these children evidence serious difficulties in learning to read and write." So that's quite a compelling statement. 1 in 4 children lack this essential skill. On a lighter note, these are my daughters, Addie and Sophie. My sister lives in Florence, Italy, so I took my girls to visit their cousins last summer for a couple of weeks. It was their first trip since they were babies, and I just wanted to protect them. I wanted to have them have some sort of defense against the all too infamous Italian men. So I taught them the first phrase I ever learned in Italian. Vada via, puzzidaglio. Do you know how many words I just said? Can you clap once for each word? Unless you speak Italian, you probably wouldn't be able to answer that question or do that task. It means, "Go away, you smell like garlic." Vada via, puzzidaglio. Now that you know what it means, can you clap once for each word? Probably not, but by listening closely, you could probably clap once for each syllable. But then the syllables have no meaning, because you can still only guess which is a syllable and which is a word. Now, this is an extreme situation because the language is new to you. But it gives you a little bit of a glimpse of what it may feel like for children who don't yet know the written language. They may understand chunks of meaning, but separating those chunks into meaningful smaller units is harder than you may think. Listen. Vada means go. Via means away. Puzzi means you smell, but it's just one word in Italian. D'aglio means of garlic, but it's a contraction in Italian, so it's just one word. Repeat after me. Vada. Via. Puzzi. D'aglio. Now say the words with me. Vada. Via. Puzzi. D'aglio. Say it without me, slowly while I click the icons. Now say it faster. Okay. Once again, let's say the phrase together. Vada via Puzzi D'aglio. So, the first outcome of the phonological awareness development continuum is students demonstrate the awareness of words in spoken sentences and phrases. And you were able to do that in a foreign language because of the systematic teaching of that skill. So what systematic teaching was involved? Well, this brief lesson utilized all 5 instructional components that are well researched in their effectiveness. Every lesson in the Funemics program utilizes these instructional components, which have been shown to promote both mastery and independence. First, the lesson paid attention to sequencing. I taught a short and concise, carefully sequenced lesson. Second, the lesson utilized segmentation, which is breaking a targeted skill into smaller units and then synthesizing the units back into the targeted skill. So we broke that sentence into the individual words and then we put the words back into a sentence. Third, the lesson controlled the level of difficulty. The gradual increase in difficulty supported your learning of the words, but the control of difficulty eventually led to independence as you became more capable. Fourth, the lesson utilized modeling. First I said each word, you repeated the words after me, and then you all said the words together, on your own of course, and then you said the phrase independently. Fifth, the lesson utilized practice, repetition, and review. You practiced several times throughout the lessons. You repeated after me as a group, then you practiced individually, and then we said the phrase together again. Now, the example I used was with adults in a foreign language. But let's put language in a child's perspective. When a child listens to the language, sometimes those little ears don't discriminate very well. So here's Sebastian. On the way home one Sunday, he says, "Mommy, why do they always talk about war at church?" I was kind of taken off guard, and, "Well, what do you mean, Sebby?" And he says, "They always say warship this, warship that. I just don't get it." And then there's the beautiful interpretation of our pledge. I led the pigeons to the flag of the United States of America and to the Republic for Richard stands. Who the heck Richard Stands was, I don't know. So the purpose of teaching phonological awareness is to break these big blocks of sometimes incoherent sounds into meaningful parts. And that starts with words. Each word is a unit of meaning. But to set a child up for success in reading, we need to break those words down further into their individual phonemes. Phonemic awareness is learning that a word like Sam can be broken down into 3 s, and blended back together to form Sam again. Sam. Once a child knows this, the skill is then transferable to letter-sound correspondence. By systematically teaching phonemic awareness, we're setting students up not only for reading success, but then for success in spelling and writing as well. There are 6 outcomes on the phonological awareness continuum. The first outcome is students demonstrate the awareness of words in spoken sentences and phrases. Now, this skill was introduced in our Italian lesson. And then the second outcome is students demonstrate the awareness of rhyme. For example, the students know that cat and bat rhyme, and the cat and dog don't rhyme. The third outcome is students demonstrate the awareness of syllables in spoken words. For example, students know that strawberry can be separated into the syllables stra, bear, e, and that the word tree has one syllable, whereas the word dolphin has two syllables. The fourth outcome is students demonstrate the ability to produce rhyming words. So for an example, a student's asked to come up with 3 words that rhyme with cat. And she says bat, hat, mat. The fifth outcome is students demonstrate the awareness of phonemes in spoken words. And an example of that would be that there are 3 sounds in cat. K, a, t. And finally, the sixth outcome is students demonstrate the ability to manipulate those phonemes in spoken words. So this takes it to the level where they change the n in man to make other words like mad and map and mat. So Phonemics systematically teaches these 6 outcomes. Lessons focus on providing the students with time to play with the language. We use rhymes and movement and songs and word games, and all the while encouraging students to make meaning of the words, to cue into the sounds of the language through listening exercises. This slide shows some of the fun and whimsical artwork used to portray the rhymes and songs. Most of all, Phonemics leaves the letters out of the instruction. It focuses on listening to and verbally identifying and manipulating sounds. The benefits of that, of keeping Phonemics grapheme-free, are that it can be used in 3 ways. It's a great precursor for reading as a curriculum for preschool or the beginning of kindergarten. It can also be taught alongside any of the myriad of wonderful reading programs out there because it doesn't interfere with the introduction of print concepts. It simply enhances the learning experience. And third, it can be used as an intervention for students who don't understand the connection of language to reading. So why did I write Phonemics? Really? For one reason. This is George, my little heartbreaker. My son George liked to talk a mile a minute. Only problem? He scored 2.5 standard deviations below the mean for articulation at the age of 3. I wanted to help him. And because I had a background in early childhood special education, I knew that training in phonemic awareness was a good thing for children with speech needs. But I couldn't find even one simple, easy to use, fun curriculum to help me teach it to him. Everything I found consisted of hundreds of pages of black and white text. These programs had great ideas about lessons, but no materials. Teach this easy 15-minute lesson. Just spend 2 hours painstakingly drawing pictures, coloring them, laminating them, and then you need at least 15 kids to sit in a circle, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, additionally, I couldn't find anything that kept the letters out of it. I wanted a phonemic awareness program without the phonics. Phonemics deals with sounds, such as the word axe is made up of 3 sounds, ax. Phonics is letter sound correspondence, such as the letter X sounds like this. X. The 2 are quite different. So I was frustrated. I felt these problems would take way too much time. I had my hands full with 4 little ones. I didn't have time for hours of prep. I just wanted to teach fun little lessons to George. So I did what any logical mother of 4 busy person would do. I spent the next 5 years writing my own curriculum. That saved me a ton of time. But I was lucky enough to find Read Naturally, and they were interested in my work and wanted to try it out with the local school district. So for about 1.5 years, I wrote and edited and illustrated and taught 59 lessons. I divided the lessons into the 6 books, one for each outcome on the phonological awareness continuum. And Read Naturally, over the course of the next 4 years, used their trial of the curriculum to gather research on its effectiveness. We had a control group in one school that was socioeconomically and academically similar to the group of students in another school who were using the curriculum. So we were really able to gain a lot of valuable information. And basically, the teachers were giving us incredibly positive feedback. Students were learning. Standardized assessment scores were proving it. The teachers were having fun teaching it. So from idea to publication, the process took about 5 years. My first group of students to try out Funemics were from George's Ojibwe immersion class school in Duluth, Minnesota. This is George and his teacher, Maji Gwanash. Maji thought it was a great way to split the class into 2 groups so that he could have a smaller focus group for a small language circle, and then I taught the other group. They very naturally divided into 1 group of 5 higher level students and 1 group of 5 struggling students. I taught the groups one after another, and it was so interesting to see how both groups benefited from the instruction. The curriculum was super easy to modify so that the higher level students were challenged and the struggling students never got too frustrated. Most importantly, we all had fun. So let's get going and see what this program has to offer. Pages 20 to 22 of your teacher's manual gives you a nice overview of the components of a typical lesson plan. On page 20, you'll see an example of the tips for teaching flap you'll find in each lesson guide. These tips are relevant to all of the lessons in the book. They're printed on both sides of the back cover flap and can be seen and referenced at a glance, as well as used as a bookmark to the lesson. When teaching the lesson, you can use the flap as a sturdy back cover so that the handheld book can be flipped over to reference the tips easily. And really importantly, it has the correction guide that's used throughout the lessons. The correction guide sets a teacher up to correct students in a gentle and non-threatening way so that when students do struggle, they don't shut down. When a student responds incorrectly, tell the student the answer right away, and then have the student repeat it, and then repeat your question or directive and let the student try again. So now they've had 2 times to answer it successfully. Whether they answer it successfully or unsuccessfully that second time, you validate the difficulty saying, that was really difficult. Let's all do it together again, and then you repeat with the whole group response. So as an example, the teacher says, what is the last sound you hear in cat? The student incorrectly answers k. And then the teacher says, the last sound you hear in cat is t. Listen, k, a, t. Say t. And then the student says t. Yes, so what is the last sound you hear in cat? And then the student answers again, t. And then the teacher says, that was really difficult. Let's all do it together now. Everyone, say the last sound you hear in cat. And then the whole group responds t. Also, on page 20 of the teacher's manual, you'll see a lesson overview. This is the page that begins each lesson. It gives you the status of the lesson, and you can find explanations for each symbol on page 31 of the teacher's manual. It tells you the focus of the lesson, the rhymes or songs used. It tells you specific tips for teaching this particular lesson, and it gives suggestion for extra practice to be used as a follow-up for teaching the lesson. In this example, Lesson 8 of Book 6 uses the rhyme The Farmer in the Dell to introduce initial phoneme deletion with modeling and to provide extra practice on 2 previously introduced skills, phoneme segmentation and initial phoneme isolation. On page 21, we see the first page of the lesson instruction. So each lesson has approximately 5 to 10 pages depending on the difficulty of the focus task. A page number and picture in the lesson guide that corresponds to a page number and a picture in the display book, and bolded script as well as instructional notes. I know you can't wait for me to sing this song and show you the brilliance of this lesson, but you'll have to wait. I'll revisit this page in a little while, and I'll demonstrate it in all its glory. On page 21, we see an example of what my first set of adorable students named the question mark page. It's a formative assessment at the end of each lesson. My little trial group of preschoolers would jump up and down, raising their hands, saying, the question mark page, call on me first, call on me. Anyway, so it's a really nice formative assessment. It's meant to ensure students understand the particular material covered in that lesson. The instructions are written out so you can call on each student individually with a separate task. But for a more comprehensive or challenging assessment, you can pull each student aside and test them with all of the material. Alternatively, if a particular student in the group needs extra challenge, you can test them with unfamiliar words that weren't tested during the lesson. There are many resources in the teacher's manual. One I'd like to show you is a scope and sequence on page 47. This lists the specific skills that are introduced throughout the curriculum, with check marks to illustrate when these skills are introduced, and then subsequently practiced. It is especially helpful to utilize this chart when you're using the curriculum as an intensive intervention, so you can place students exactly where they need to be, which the pre and post tests are very helpful to do. On page 49 to 54 of the teacher's manual, you can see these pre and post tests, and each skill introduced that's listed on the scope and sequence is tested with 5 questions on these tests. The tests allow room for both the pre and post test scores, so the results can be compared side by side. These tests are provided in addition to the question mark page formative assessments, and so there are multiple opportunities and ways to keep tabs on your students' progress. Based on the pretest information, you may or may not want to skip to a later book in the series. Maybe your students understand word segmentation quite well, but then they get stuck when it comes to syllable segmentation. As an intervention, it may help to skip book 1. However, be wary of skipping ahead too much, as these skills build upon one another, and many of the earlier lessons serve as an introduction to rhyme and rhythm and wordplay, even though they may focus on something different, like word segmentation. It may be tempting to skip ahead, but it could work better to master the earlier skills, so students are set up for success learning the more difficult skills. This is where the teacher's intuition is super important. But knowing the ins and outs of the program before making those decisions is crucial. If you find that a group of students or a particular student is struggling with a particular concept, we encourage teachers to utilize the extra practice tips found in each lesson overview, and to even repeat the lessons using an approach similar to rereading a favorite book. The lessons are meant to be fun, and repetition can be helpful when approached in a positive way. So the primary thing is to just keep it fun and light. Page 55 provides a data collection sheet that allows you to track the progress of student achievement in each of the skills tested with pre and post tests. So this is a nice thing to have your whole classroom's progress on one page. Also in the teacher's manual, we've provided reproducible, fantastic student awards. So these not only service a purpose of rewarding the students for their accomplishment of a full book, but they also offer ideas to parents, and that's what's really important, to continue the practice of the skill at home with their child. For example, Book 1 states, share your fantastic students' accomplishments. Say a simple rhyme, phrase, or sentence. Clap once or throw a ball back and forth for each word. You could count the words with blocks or even spoons. Be creative and have fun. And then it has room for teachers' comments. The state standards are kind of a constant moving target. So we've used the Phonemics sampler found online to discuss how the curriculum coordinates with the Common Core, state standards, DIBELS, and Ames Web. You can find it under the Sample tab when you visit www.funemics.com. In the handout provided you on the last page, we've shown how the Funemics curriculum meets all of the Common Core state standards for phonological awareness in both kindergarten and first grade. On this handout, we've listed all of the course phonological standards for kindergarten and grade 1, and then we listed the specific lessons that provide that instruction and practice for each of those skills. As you can see, many of the skills are revisited multiple times during the curriculum. Practice, repetition, and review. We highly recommend no more than 6 students to a group. This is so that every student has ample opportunity for the individualized instructions. Most often, lessons are taught at a small table with a shared iPad on which students take turns interacting. However, if you have a Macintosh desktop or a MacBook connected to the interactive whiteboard, you can also teach the lessons from the large screen. Phonemics utilizes a lot of nursery rhymes throughout the 6 books. Research reveals that students' knowledge of nursery rhymes at a young age actually has a role in the success of reading, writing, and spelling. As cited in the teacher's manual, there were 4 studies that reported a strong correlation between early knowledge of nursery rhymes and subsequent reading, writing, and spelling success. And it's important to note that this success was found despite factors of socioeconomic status, IQ, and beginning phonological skills. And the strong predictive correlations weren't reproduced in the area of mathematics. So this further supports the evidence that the correlation is strong between reading and the knowledge of nursery rhymes. And that's exactly why nursery rhymes work so well with the Funemics lessons. So when teaching the lessons, ham it up. Be sure to have fun. The lessons are based on rhyme and song. So you can't be afraid to dance, sing, twirl when prompted. The students will be more engaged and thus less reserved. If they're having fun, that leads to a successful learning environment. As an example, this is the artwork for the song Knees Up, Mother Brown. There came a girl from France who didn't know how to dance. The only thing that she could do was knees up, Mother Brown. Oh, knees up, Mother Brown. Knees up, Mother Brown. Knees up, never let the breeze up. Knees up, Mother Brown. So Mother Brown doesn't know how to dance. And this lesson focuses on rhyming action words. These actions will help Mother Brown learn how to dance. And so the teacher and the students get up and dance the new moves with each page of the lesson. And hamming it up while singing and dancing to that song engages the students. It allows them to enjoy the lesson, and thus they're more comfortable and ready to learn. So now we're going to do what I've penned the widget walk. I'm going to walk you through the types of widgets we employ to teach phonemic awareness. We'll start with Book 1 and work through all 6 books. Book 1 focuses on word recognition. Much like the Italian lesson I just gave you, we use a variety of activities to segment sentences and phrases into the individual words, such as standing and sitting for each word, clapping once for each word, touching your head or shoulders with each word, or using an interactive widget to move one icon with each word. Here's an example from Book 1. The lesson is based on Baba Black Sheep, which we teach the students at the start of the lesson. I'll click on the lower icon to open the widget here. As the students say the words have, you, any, wool, they take turns moving the interactive icons up the page for each word. The student moves one icon up, while everybody says, have, you, any, wool. The reset button up here resets the page for ease of repetition. The done button up here, there we go, exits the widget. If you're on a computer, you can also press escape on your keyboard. On the iPad, it's a little circled X in the right-hand corner of the page that you tap on to exit the widget. Book 2 focuses on rhyme recognition. In the research I highlighted a few slides back, it reports that strong correlation between the knowledge of nursery rhymes and the subsequent reading, writing, and spelling success. But research also suggests that strong phonemic awareness leads to reading, writing, and spelling success. So let's look at how those 2 pieces of research could be related. Rhyming is essentially a 3-step process that includes some of the most important skills in phonemic awareness. First, you have to isolate the initial phoneme in a given word. You need to delete it, so you're left with the rhyme, and then you need to blend a new initial phoneme onto that rhyme to create a new word. These 3 steps involve the following phonological skills. I'll use the example of rhyming with cat for each step. The onset is k, the rhyme is at. You isolate the initial phoneme, k, and then you delete it, and all you have left is at. Then you substitute an initial phoneme. You add to the beginning of at, and you blend it, mat, to make a new word, mat, which rhymes with cat. The systematic teaching of rhyme awareness and rhyme production is vitally important to subsequent success in more advanced phonemic awareness and manipulation dealing with final phonemes and medial phonemes and stuff like that. And also, it's fun. Kids and teachers alike love to work with rhymes. So here's a page from Lesson 3 of Book 2. The stimulus words in this lesson are based on the rhyme pat a cake. Students are asked to bring a word into the circle that rhymes with man. I'm going to click the lower icon to open the rhyming widget. Okay, in Lesson 3, in order to immerse students in rhyming word pairs, all of the words rhyme with the stimulus. We've got ran, van, fan, can, and pan. Students are asked to bring a word into the oval that rhymes with man. They feel successful right away because all of the choices are correct, but at the same time, they're learning about rhyme. So, using the same type of widget with other words, subsequent lessons scaffold to the more difficult level of discriminating rhyming words, so not all of the words at the bottom of the page are rhyming. In Lesson 7, the difficulty increases again, with several stimulus words rather than just one. Look at the pictures. Listen and watch. Moo, shirt, page, mouse, cage, hurt, house, shoe. Students are asked to drag the rhyming words into the ovals. Moo rhymes with shoe. Shirt rhymes with hurt. Page rhymes with cage. And mouse rhymes with house. Again, the reset button helps with repetition. Book 3 focuses on syllable recognition. Syllables serve as the natural bridge between larger units of sounds, the words, to the smallest units, the phonemes. So teaching students to recognize and then manipulate syllables allows for that familiarity with the concept before they're asked to do those same skills with phonemes, which is much harder. Here's a page from Book 3, Lesson 1. Using the nursery rhyme Wee Willie Winkie, this lesson illustrates compound words with an interactive widget that shows how compound words are formed by 2 little words. I'll click on the lower icon to open the widget. Watch me say a line of the rhyme with these squares. 2 squares will jump together every time I say a compound word. Up, stairs, and downstairs, in his nightgown. Upstairs, downstairs, and nightgown are all compound words. Lessons 3 and 4 use one of my favorite guys named Aiken Drum to teach about 3-syllable words. There was a man lived in the moon, in the moon, in the moon. There was a man lived in the moon, and his name was Aiken Drum. His nose was made of a strawberry, strawberry, strawberry. His nose was made of a strawberry, and his name was Aiken Drum. Watch as I drag each strawberry up the page as I say each syllable. Strawberry. Straw. Bear. E. Now I'll say it fast while I move the icons together. Strawberry. The students practice saying each syllable slowly, then saying the words fast. Here's a page from Lesson 8. Blueberries, blueberries, yum, yum, yum. I like blueberries in my tum. These icons stand for each syllable in blueberries. This lesson teaches students to delete the first and last syllables from the words. First, we say each syllable. Blue, bear, ease. Then by clicking on an icon, it turns to a shadow. Now we whisper the shadow syllable and say the other ones out loud. Blue, bear, ease. Then we work toward being able to say it without seeing the first syllable. Bear, ease, berries. Blueberries without the first syllable is berries. Book 4 immerses students in the skill of producing rhyme. As noted before, this serves as a phenomenal introduction to the highest level skill on the phonological awareness continuum, which is phonemic manipulation. Here's a page from Lesson 1. Throughout this lesson, students blend continuous sounds to E to make words that rhyme with E. Many of the lessons in Book 4 teach rhyming with this type of widget. Throughout the lesson, this yellow ball always says E. But this sound over here changes. On this page, it says So the color of the blue dot changes in shade with each new sound introduced. I'm going to blend these two parts to make a new word that rhymes with E. I'll keep saying as I slide it over to blend with E. Listen and watch. Me. Swipe icon back. Again, listen and watch. Me. Now I'll say it fast. Me. So this lesson walks students through several of these exercises, all with continuous sounds. And then the next lesson scaffold the difficulty up to stop sounds and then finally blended sounds like sp. In Lesson 3, the students blend stop sounds to make new words that all rhyme with at. The beginning sound we'll use says k. Since k is difficult to say slowly, we will have to blend it by stretching the rhyme. The rhyme says at. Listen as I stretch at. At. Now listen and watch. I'll blend the parts as I slide the sounds to make a new word. Cat. Okay, again. Cat. Now I'm going to say it fast. Cat. Later lessons in Book 4 encourage students to create their own rhyming words using stimulus words and riddles and songs such as Down by the Bay. Book 5 provides 10 lessons that help develop the skills of identifying, discriminating, and manipulating initial and final phonemes in spoken words. It's very important to remember that the entire Funemics curriculum is grapheme-free. We keep the letters out of it, so it is vitally important that you say the sound, not the letter name, when identifying initial or ending phonemes. Lessons 1 and 2 in Book 5 work on initial phoneme isolation using alliteration, more affectionately known as the tongue twister, like Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. So then, after some tongue twisters, we go into Lesson 3, providing students with the opportunity to discriminate initial phonemes in spoken words. It's based on this song. The big ship sails on the alley, alley-o, the alley, alley-o, the alley, alley-o. Oh, the big ship sails on the alley, alley-o, on the last day of September. In order to sail on the last day of September, the sailors need a sail, a wheel, and the sea. Students are asked which two words begin with the same sound. And then one student is asked to move those two words into the oval to begin with the same sound. Students can choose an incorrect answer. on any of these widgets. This allows for the teacher to use the research-based correction guide rather than the computer giving instant negative feedback. In some lessons, a specific guide is written into the script. So here's how this one goes. Let's test them. Do sail and wheel begin with the same sound? Listen. Sail begins with s, sail. Wheel begins with wheel. They don't begin with the same sound. Let's change wheel to make it begin with the same sound as sail. Listen. Sail, seal. Seal begins with the same sound as sail, but is this a seal? No, it's a wheel. So sail and a wheel don't begin with the same sound. Try again. Then allow the student to answer and bring new words into the oval. As you can see, the correction guide is used to benefit everyone, not just the student who made the error. In lesson 6, we meet the captain on that big ship, and he is one crazy captain. The captain's sailors keep saying one thing, and he keeps taking away the first sound of the word and makes a new word. And he says, the captain says, that'll never, never do, never, never do, never, never do. The captain says, that'll never, never do on the last day of September. One of the captain's sailors sees a whale and cries, whale! And the captain says, that'll never, never do, never, never do, never, never do. The captain says, I don't see a whale. Let's go drink some ginger ale. So here are the two word parts in whale. We have and ale. If we take away what do we have left? This lesson walks the students through the steps to find out that taking the first sound away from whale makes the word into ale. Lesson 9 introduces final phoneme manipulation, specifically adding final phonemes to make new words. It looks like we have a little bit of a computer error here. Nothing is coming up. Hold on for a minute. Oh no, we're seeing the rainbow. Well, this happens. And it's just something with technology. So we're going to wait it out for a second here.
Is there anything I can do, Andrea?
I don't know. I'm going to... Ben, do you know how to force quit?
Yes. If you do Option, right-click on the icon. Select Force Quit.
Option, right-click.
So if you escape out of full screen mode.
Yeah, it's not letting me.
Okay, just one moment, okay?
There we go.
There you go.
Worked. Okay, reopen. All right. Back up and running, it looks like. Hopefully that won't happen again. Okay, so there we are. Here's our little guy. Thank you for sticking with me through that. So this widget is similar to the one used for rhyming, but this time we're adding sounds to the end of words. So this boy is always saying me in this lesson. This part always says me. But the last sound says, right now, t. I'm going to blend these two parts to make a word from me. I'll keep saying me as I slide it over to blend with t. Listen and watch. Meat. As I slide it over. Again, listen and watch. Meat. Now I'm going to say it fast. Meat. We made a new word from me by adding something to the end of it. The other sounds on this page are mean, O, meal, and k, meek. Book 6 provides continued practice of phoneme isolation and manipulation, including blending and segmentation, but we add the skills of phoneme substitution, deletion, and medial phoneme isolation. The first 5 lessons of Book 6 offer a judicious review of blending and segmenting phonemes and practice in isolating initial and medial phonemes. Many of the widgets in Book 6 are set up similarly to this one in Lesson 4, which uses 1, 2, buckle my shoe. So here's the big fat hen. And these are the 3 sounds in hen. In this lesson, the students say each sound as I touch the icons. And then they blend the sounds. Hen. And then they say it fast. Hen. Then I touch one of the icons, either the first, middle, or last, and change its color. And I ask the students to identify the first, middle, or last sound. In Lesson 7, we use this rhyme in an activity about discriminating medial phonemes. A cat came fiddling out of a barn with a pair of bagpipes under her arm. She could sing nothing but fiddle-dee-dee. The mouse has married the bumblebee. In this lesson, students are asked to discriminate the medial phoneme. They have to decide which word, rake or pan, has the same middle sound as cat. This is also an excellent grapheme-free introduction to discriminating long and short vowel sounds. The correction guide on this page tests the 2 words. If the student chooses rake, the teacher says, listen, cat, rack. Rack has the same middle sound as cat, but is this a rack? And then the student says, no, it's a rake. Okay, so they don't have the same middle sound. Oh, and here's our little farmer. The farmer in the dell, the farmer in the dell, hi-ho the dairy-o, the farmer in the dell. In this lesson, students identify the 4 phonemes in the word farmer. R, And then, like we did with syllables, they learn to delete the initial phoneme and make the word farmer into armor. Ah, he must be her knight in shining armor. The farmer takes a wife, the farmer takes a wife. Hi-ho the dairy-o, the farmer takes a wife. Deleting the initial phoneme takes becomes aches, of course, because her heart just aches for him. So although there are many lessons we skipped over, I hope you have a good idea now of how Funemics is structured and how to navigate the books. A classroom set of Funemics is $185, and it can be purchased and resources are found at www.phonemics.com. We'll now open questions to online viewers.
Okay, thanks, Andrea. We have had some questions, and I'll just run through the ones that we have, and then if there are any other ones that we don't, that we haven't gotten to, we will respond via email after the presentation is over. Okay. So the first one, are there any differences between using iBooks on a computer, which you're doing now, or on an iPad?
Well, the iPad is obviously controlled by touch, whereas the computer is controlled with the mouse. Other than that, it's pretty similar. The only difference is how to exit a widget. On the iPad, there's a little circled X in the top left corner of the widget, and you just touch that, and on the computer, you press escape, or you have to scroll up to the top corner and get that little done rectangle. So that's about the only difference we have found.
Okay, that's great. Thanks. Another question, how do you navigate through the iBooks if you want to go from one lesson with one group of kids to another lesson with the next group of kids?
Oh, that's an excellent question. So up here, you just hover your mouse over the top of the screen and it pulls down. On an iPad, you would just tap the page and this little bar pulls down, and then there's this bulleted list. So you click on the bulleted list and you can scroll through to the different chapters. If you want to find a specific page, you can pull up the thumbnails and click on the chapters, and they show you the specific pages of the chapters.
Okay, that seems easy enough. How would you characterize phonemics? Would it be considered an intervention or basic instruction?
Another great question, because we like to use it for both. It's great general instruction for an entire year of preschool. You can take it really slow, you can do a ton of repetition, have a lot of fun with it, do all the extra practice stuff. It can also be used as a great introduction to reading, pre-reading basically activity in kindergarten, to be used in the first, several weeks of school before you introduce a reading curriculum. If your kindergarten introduces the reading curriculum right away, of course it's grapheme free, so it can be done alongside it to give students more success. And then we have found it works great in Title I classes and other remedial reading interventions through 2nd grade.
Okay, great, thanks. Just a few more here.
Okay.
Can I use the free iBooks without the lesson guides? You can get a free iBook from iTunes.
Yes, you can feel free to download all of the 6 iBooks. They have a ton of great art for activities using nursery rhymes. You want to use the widgets. Sometimes are very general without any pictures. You can use some of those widgets to, adapt your lesson to use a ton more words than are provided in the particular lesson. But the one thing you can't do is we don't have any kind of lesson guide on the iBook, so you would have to purchase the lesson guides to get our curriculum. Okay.
And speaking of purchasing, can you talk a little bit more about the pricing for Funēmics?
Okay, so one classroom set of Funēmics costs $185. And that includes 6 lesson guides, a teacher's manual, and then the instructions for downloading the 6 free display books from iTunes. That license includes, it's for one teacher or one classroom. And it's a one-time purchase. It's not a subscription, so $185, you can use it for years. Some people want a sample. We have put a sampler online. So there's a couple, there's like a example lesson for each of the 6 iBooks in the sampler, and you can download the iBooks and use it for that example lesson to kind of get a feel for how the Funēmics program works.
Okay, great. And then finally, could you speak a little bit about the technology aspect of Funēmics? How do the iBooks work, etc.?
Sure. Okay. iBooks work on Mac products, iPhones, iPads, and Mac desktops and laptops that have OS 10.9 or later. iPhones have to support iBooks, and the iPads have to support the iBooks. We have all of that detailed information on www.phonemics.com. We also have detailed downloading instructions on phonemics.com. You just click on the How To tab and you follow the instructions for your appropriate device. And let's see, other than that, a lot of people ask about interactive whiteboards. Can I use this on my smartboard? Well, you can, definitely. If you have a laptop or a desktop computer, the interactive icons are actually interactive right on the whiteboard itself. So the kids can go up to the class and move the life-size icons up the page and stuff like that. As an iPad interactive whiteboard usage, you can pass the iPad around the table, and as the specific student is interacting on the iPad, everybody else can see it up on the smartboard. But the actual interaction doesn't work on the smartboard. It's just mirrored with the iPad. So I think that kind of covers most of the technologically based questions.
Okay, great. Thanks so much, Andrea. I think we've we've reached our time limit with the questions. I just want to remind everyone again, after we end our webinar, a little survey will come up with just some 2 or 3 quick questions about your experience today. And also remind you that we do offer webinars throughout the school year. The next one is on the 16th of next week. I believe that's a Wednesday at 11 a.m. Central Time. And the topic of that is foundational reading skills. You can register for that up on the readnashly.com website. Thanks again, everyone. Thanks, Andrea, for your very informative presentation. We, again, will be sending out a link to the recording of this webinar, along with a link to the handouts as well. And feel free to share and distribute that to other folks at your school. And with that, we'll end the webinar, and have a great day, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.